Welcome back to Conquering Kalimdor. It's been a few weeks, but I have been playing the game. Today we're going to continue exploring the Barrens. As you can see, I have my horse now. I got a few elephant pets that I got from the Barrens last time, as well as a few lion cubs. But the lion cubs require a specific type of meat, so I decided to go and get that meat. Now, they can really eat any kind of meat, but for the best results of getting a rare pet, you want a certain type of meat, which would be the exquisite meat. Now, I didn't have any on hand, so I went out to get some. The best way to get exquisite meat is from a kudu, which there was a kudu right outside the gates of Orgrimmar in the Barrens. Since they're not that hard to kill, I figured I would just play around and try to kill one while on horseback with my weaky little axe. Unfortunately, I ended up pulling the lion that was nearby too while I was trying to kill the kudu, so I hightailed it out of there. Once the lion and the kudu ran back, I finally killed the kudu. I have a star metal cleaver that I looted off of an enemy not too long ago. I use that to get as much meat as I can. Once I head back home, I went and put the meat into the taming pen so that the lions could start taming up. And there you go. 2 lions and 1 mountain lion. I really want to make the Gorehowl, so I gather as many materials as I can, and I go ahead and finally craft the Gorehowl. After 5 seconds of crafting. Finally, after 8 episodes, I have the Gorehowl. I am finally Grommash Hellscream. I've never played with a two-handed axe before, so I decided to test it out a little bit here to show you its moveset. I'm more of a two-handed sword user, though I haven't been using one this play. I opted for axes instead since it fit my style, or at least my character. I also made the Horde gloves, however they were not that good in terms of stats compared to what I already have, so I used the Fasionist mod to transmog it onto my set, so I could still use the looks, but I could keep the stats of the original gear that I have on at the moment. Now I look like a proper orc. I gather up some more materials. And I go ahead and start upgrading all of my workstations. I put everything into my bag, and then I upgrade it by making the next one up, destroying the old one, and placing the new one. I also wanted to make the Mithril Smelter. The Mithril Smelter didn't seem like it took that much material, so I gathered what I needed and I crafted it real quick. I decided to make the Mithril Smelter first before I made the other improved workstations. I put it upstairs because there was not a lot of room downstairs. Now this is something that I actually got mixed up. As you see right there, it says obsidian for obsidian composite, crystal for glass, and silver ore for silver, plus coal in order to make the mithril. Well, I had everything except for the obsidian. While I have mined obsidian nodes, I never kept it. I just kept the gold and dumped the obsidian. So I went back to the mine that was in the Barrens near Ratchet so I could get the obsidian that I found last time there. I took a couple of followers, and with my new Gorehowl, I tested it out on the enemies inside. Once I got to the end, I mined the obsidian. Now, something that I didn't do, as I was trying to say before, was it turns out that you just have to put the various items, like the base material, the ore and such, of the items required in order to make the mithril. I thought you actually had to have the obsidian composite, so I didn't make the legendary version of Gorehowl this episode because I did not know where I could find a volcanic forge, which is what you would need to make the obsidian composite. But the owner of the mod actually informed me you don't need the obsidian composite, you just need obsidian. So, later on in another episode, you will see me create it. I decorated my house a little bit, as you saw just now, and then I finally upgraded the workstations. I had all of the material, I just finally got around to doing it. I put some Darfari war paint on Zakan, just because he's a troll and I thought it would look cool on him. I'm not sure if war paints actually give thralls bonus stats or not, though it will give you bonus stats if you put it on yourself. Though I thought it looked cool on him. But now we're finally ready. I have my new weapon, some new gear, my followers have some new gear, and we headed out into the Southern Barrens. I took the Zeppelin to the crossroads, and then ran the rest of the way. I didn't want to use my horse because I felt like I wanted to enjoy the experience of exploring an area for the first time. Normally this little tent over here that you see on the side of the road is empty in the normal World of Warcraft, and it was fairly empty, though there was a dead human body that I couldn't click on. There were some open workstations, though I didn't really have need for them, so I decided to skip them. I pass over the bridge that would now lead me into the Southern Barrens. I make my way to where I died in the second episode, if you remember. I wanted to check if a certain somebody was there. However, they were not. And if you're wondering who I was talking about, I'm talking about Mankrik's wife. Though there were a couple of trolls just chilling around here. Once I was done looking at them, I continued on. Ahead I found some rhinos. I decided to just kill the rhino. They were not that hard anyway. Standard gray rhinos don't have a lot of HP. Now, up ahead, where you're looking, normally there would be Quillboar. But instead of Quillboar, I am greeted with Vanir. They also have their pet wolves, and some of them even have pet bears, just like in the original map. These guys do hit a lot harder, as these guys are meant for level 40 players. While I am level 60, some of my gear is good, but the other half of my gear is still pretty bad. So I was not really that equipped to take them on by myself, especially in the numbers that they were. But luckily I had my followers, so they helped take on the rest of them as well. The chest that they had lying around had some pretty good material. Steel, thick leather, crystals. In the original map, I actually never make my own steel. I always take it from Vanir. So, now that I have a good source of steel that I don't have to make myself, I always have a reason to come back here. And also, as you saw earlier, any of the equipment that I found on the Vanir, I was giving it to my followers so that they could get upgraded as well. After all, even though I'm finding Vanir out here in the Southern Barrens, I've still not yet been to Mulgore and Dustwallow Marsh, which I believe are going to have stronger enemies, so I would want to be prepared. Their pet bear did have a lot of HP, though it wasn't too bad for all of us to handle. Now that I've finally made it to Camp Taraho, I have been waiting for this. This is the first real Tauren village I've been in. I have seen a couple of Taurens so far, but they were up near Warsong Gulch. To finally see a village of Tauren, I can't wait to... and they're all pretty much orcs and trolls. Well, that was disappointing. It was a little bit disappointing to see that everyone in Camp Taraho were basically orcs and trolls, and there was little to no Tauren. Now, I believe it's because the Tauren are a much stronger enemy. That's why you don't see them as often as the standard orcs or the trolls, which are lesser creatures, in my opinion. Well, in terms of, the in-game mechanics and stats, right? So, it makes sense from that kind of standpoint that you wouldn't want, elites everywhere, basically. But at the same time, it just kind of ruins the aesthetic that there are no Tauren in a Tauren village. I looked around the village. Even though there were some orcs and trolls, I wanted to see if there was anything that it had to offer. While a couple of the buildings were changed up, there wasn't really much to it. So I continued on behind the village. And sure enough, there were more thunder snouts here. I take on the thunder lizard, and I have my followers attack as well. They have pretty high HP as they're equivalent to a small baby dragon. Luckily, they don't have any lightning breath or anything that would cause us to worry, so I let my followers take on the brunt of it, and I just come in for some GPS on the side. Night was growing near, but I wanted to see what was in the Silithid area. Surely there had to be Reapers around, right? Reapers are the closest thing to Silithid that I can think of. Though, as I got closer, I only saw scorpions. Well, there are some Silithid in World of Warcraft that basically look like or are scorpions, so I guess it kind of makes sense, though I was still kind of hoping to see some Reapers around. Though, as I got further in, I did see a Scorpion Queen. Scorpion Queens are world bosses, and I know for a fact I could not take one on as of right now, so I left it alone to continue on. I make it to the watchtower in the Southern Barrens. I see a dragon flying overhead. It was very tempting to go and attack it, but I decided to camp for the night instead. I brought with me a little tent and a campfire just for some roleplay aesthetics. I even brought a sleeping roll to set down so I can have a respawn point. So, if I die somewhere in the Southern Barrens, I have a way to run back to my body quickly. While I was waiting for morning, it did start to get a little bit light outside. As I looked off to the side, I saw a bunch more rhinos, including a Rhino King. And if anyone remembers my encounter back in Durotar, I did not want to engage that Rhino King. Further up, I found some tusk beasts. Tusk beasts are basically rhinos, but they're from Sipta. Well, rhinos in terms of their mechanics, but they look more like giant hogs. I looked around to see if I could find any baby ones, because having a pet tusk beast would be pretty cool, though I didn't see any babies, which was disappointing. Luckily, tusk beasts are not that hard to kill, just like the rhinos, so we take on as many as we need to in order to progress. I also harvested a head, so now I can mount that in my hall as well. I continue on to more of the Quillboar huts, though there were no Quillboar, there were just trolls fighting orcs. I'm not sure what faction was of what faction, but it looks like I found more of the clanless orcs, along with the forest trolls that are allied with them. Who they killed, I actually do not know. I wasn't able to read their name to see what faction they were affiliated with, but they did not look like Horde members. The clanless orc that you see me kill there had some pretty sick gear. Turns out you can actually make it if you learn a specific skill to craft it, though I didn't have that skill quite yet. I found some boars further on, and finally we see some boars. After all, boars are in World of Warcraft in Durotar, and even in Mulgore, However, boars are a higher level animal in Conan, probably around a level 30 to 40 animal. They don't hit that hard once you do get to where they are, but they are still kind of tough for beginners, so having them in the starting zone of this map was probably a better idea. All of the Quillboar camps along the Southern Barrens, where you would do the quests in order to collect the knife, the shield, and the wand, they were all full of clanless orcs. Pretty tough ones, I might add. I did have a lot of trouble with them in the more condensed areas. But I stopped by each of the tents just to explore everything that it had to offer. I even went up into the boss's hut, the one where you would find the Quillboar known as Orcbane. It was a more decorative hut with some skulls and stuff mounted around, though there were no bosses, just some stronger NPCs. There were also some villagers, but they died in like one hit, so I didn't worry about them too much. As you saw, I took a lot of damage, so I had to use my potions quite often. I also had to back away sometimes, too. I continued on my journey of conquering the Barrens. We continued on in the Southern Barrens, where there's more landless orcs scattered amongst the Quillboar huts. They hit pretty darn hard. One of them almost got the better of me just there. They got me into a corner where my followers ended up pinning me down, and it was kind of hard. I tried to move them around, I tried jumping, climbing, though it was kind of funny because I just ended up getting stuck. I tried to roll, tried to crouch. I ended up getting frustrated as I was there for about 10 minutes trying to get unstuck. Eventually, I just moved one of my characters so I could move through the opening, and then I had him refollow me. All fixed. Ooh, a mystery bell. If I ring that, I'd get a decorative pet. Let's see what I get when I ring the bell. Aw, I got another shoe bill. I already have a shoe bill. They're not really my favorite pet. I was hoping for a wolf or a bear or something. Oh well. Unfortunately here, they got the better of me. Enemies surrounded me, and I wasn't able to do anything at all. They basically stun-locked me into oblivion, and I was not able to dodge or block or anything, so they did manage to kill me. Luckily though, I did put up my respawn bed, so I was able to run back quickly. Once I gathered my stuff and all my friends, I went back to try to get revenge on myself, basically. We killed those that killed me. You probably saw my body there in the corner. I found more boars up ahead, and I found some baby boars too. I pick up the baby boars and hand them off to one of my followers, namely Zakon, because if I use the baby boars in an item known as the boar pen, I could have domesticated boars that I don't really have to have out as like actual thralls or followers, and they would provide me with all of the things that a boar would provide you when you kill them. Up ahead, I did see Bale Gun, but just as all of the other larger alliance settlements, I decided to skip it for now. I plan to have a final episode of this series where I go around and defeat all of the alliance settlements in the map. So, I'm going to leave that for the last episode. I went ahead to where Razorfriend Downs and Razorfriend Crawl were. Both of them were empty, though there were portals that were closed, which means there's going to be dungeons in them in the future. However, because they are blocked, I am unable to access them just now. Well, that just leaves one last thing to do in the Southern Barrens, and that's to go look off the edge and try to get a glimpse of the Thousand Needles. Unfortunately, the green barrier, the green wall of death, prevented me from really looking out into the Thousand Needles. I was hoping to get a glimpse of it just to look at it, but it didn't work. But anyway, that is the end of this episode. Now that we are done with the Barrens, the next episode will be us going into Mulgore. I hope you stick around for that, and I'll see you next time. This concludes this episode of Conquering Kalimdor. If you enjoyed watching this, please subscribe, as I will be posting more videos on my adventures with this mod weekly. Like the video and feel free to comment below. Thank you for watching.